Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found that as inspiring as I did. I thought it was a really good session, and many thanks to Ed for chairing it and the speakers. That was really good. So I think a round of applause. Thank you. Right, we're coming to the end of the day, but we have an important lecture now in memory of Sir Colin Spedding, who chaired this forum for a large number of years. And I'm very delighted to hand over to James Hick, who's actually going to introduce the whole topic. There you are, James, over to you.
Thank you very much, and well done, James. Nailed it. Good afternoon, Your Royal Highness, and ladies and gentlemen. To celebrate the Colin Spedding Award, as we've just mentioned there, we have a memorial lecture, and this is the programme that we're just now going to follow. Many will remember in 2024, the award went to Kirsty Withnell of the RSPCA in recognition of her tenacity, perseverance in bringing justice to those responsible for causing unnecessary harm and suffering to horses. Kirsty was the linchpin in many large-scale operations to rescue horses, where coordination was needed with cooperation across numerous agencies, equine charities, and she and her work has been vital in securing that safe and efficient rescue for equines and other animals. Very sadly, Kirsty lost her fight with cancer in 2024. And today's memorial lecture continues to build on Kirsty's outstanding work and to honour her. And today, I'm really delighted to be joined by, if you'd like to come on up, Penny Baker, who's a field officer for World Horse Welfare. Penny spent many years also at the RSPCA and is now frontline field officer for World Horse Welfare. Sorry about that, Rolly. Jana Merrett-Jones, who is the welfare manager for the Hugs Foundation. Jana has been there for a number of years and has focused on rescue and education, which we'll hear in a minute. And Christine Stiles from the RSPCA, who is an inspector, been there for many years and coordinates all of the equine activity across the UK for the RSPCA. I think today, for me, is the golden thread has been about collaboration. We've talked about feed collaboration this morning, about how that is brought together for us. We've talked about how addressing the equine grass sickness has been brought together by collaboration. And this afternoon, again, we've just heard about how we're working across assisted therapy. So now it's about time that we really focus some time on welfare. And how do we collaborate as a sector? Her Royal Highness has often said that we are stronger together. And I think we're just about to hear some of that outstanding work that does happen and how we are stronger together. So Penny, are you ready? On the edge of your seat. How do we collaborate? How do we collaborate as a sector? What role does the National Equine Welfare Council play, for example?
Well, I remember two things that Kirsty said to me very, very vividly after Amersham, Spindle's Farm, horrendous case. And one of those things, it wasn't a planned operation, and one of those things that she said to me was she couldn't believe how all the nuke registered charities dropped everything and came to her assistance. Now, probably 10, 15 years ago, if we're in that scenario and charities and other organisations offer us help, we were sometimes in a situation where we'd have to think, well, who are they? Are they reputable? Is it safe to put horses there? Do they have good standards? Do they have similar beliefs and ethics? But because Nuke has developed its membership so well, we are now in a much more fortunate position because these, Amersham-style jobs have become, unfortunately, more and more regular. We now don't have to think about that. All we need to know is, are they nuke registered? Because there are no regulations to stop anybody going out tomorrow and setting up a charity or a rescue, and they don't have to have any standards in place. But the National Equine Welfare Council has fortunately set those standards, and they are attainable standard, and that's really important. They are attainable, so it's not just big charities, it's smaller organisations. So when we know that they are a nuke member, that's all I now need to know, which is a huge help for us on the front line.
And that's an excellent way of getting that across quickly for us. And Jana, you are a smaller organisation, brilliant organisation that you are, but you're a bit smaller. You've recently joined Nuke, I think?
Yeah, so we've been going as a charity since 2017, so that's quite a small period of time, and when you include COVID and everything else in that time. And we joined Nuke in 2021, and that completely opened up our doors. So not just on having access to inspectors and field agents, but also having support. So we asked questions about our rehoming contracts, our risk assessments. It was a way to go into a larger collaborative organisation and know that we were meeting those standards. And, you know, even as a young charity, I was asked to be part of those minimal standard setups because they want to know the voice of the small charities. What are your challenges? What have you faced? And to make sure that is imparted into what those minimal standards might be to join those organisations, so that it is accessible for everybody, which then opens up the doors for those other inspectors to go, actually, they're the charity just down the road who is part of Nuke.
It's an organisation we can trust. We know we've got minimum standards. We know that we can deliver the work that we need to deliver.
It's working effectively, isn't it?
Absolutely, and this is exactly what we've got. Nobody's got much cash, to be fair, but the work that is delivered by yourselves and all of those other charities of Nuke is actually outstanding. So, Christine.
Yeah, well, Nuke has opened many doors for us, I would say, in exactly what Penny said in terms of the standards, particularly from the RSPCA's point of view. Obviously, many of the animals we take in are subject to some form of investigation. So we need to ensure that whilst they are in care for the duration of that investigation, that they are being maintained at gold standard effectively and getting everything they need from their physical and mental health and welfare needs.
Brilliant. Just please do get on Slido, start bringing those questions. I know the team here have been thinking about this hard over the last few days. Christine, just bring alive for us, if you would, to the wider audience that's here today, the complexity around bringing together a multi-agency operation. You know, if we picture the fact that we may have 100 horses that may need to be rescued, or 50 horses. I mean, you know, in a muddy field or on a common or running around somewhere, it's you from the RSPCA that is generally at the forefront of one of these types of actions. So, you know, with that big problem, bring alive, because it's really incredibly impressive, the work that's undertaken.
Yes, I mean, like, generally it's not an easy feat. I am based in South Wales, so I will get contact from officers all over England and Wales. They may have walked into a situation that's been reported to us of, you know, severe equine welfare concerns or compromise. So the information I'll get in the beginning is quite limited. The most important things that we need to know is obviously the numbers of horses, and not so much the type of horses, but how they are with people. What is their human relationship? Because obviously it is quite a significant impact if they are not used to being handled, if they're semi-feral, or if they're horses in stables, we can easily put head collars on. So from there, based on that knowledge of the horses, I'll start looking at maps and gain the knowledge of the environment, because it's easy to think I would just organise however many lorries I might need for however many horses. But if I can't get the lorries near to where the horses might be, then I will have to bring in penning systems and a lot more people to carry panels around so that we can make funnels and directions for them to move in safely, particularly if these horses are unhandled. Obviously, these horses' welfare is compromised, so they're going to act differently, they're going to be afraid, and our job as officers on the ground is to keep the stress levels for the horses in particular down to a minimum while maintaining the health and safety for all of that. So once we've sort of I've kind of established how many people we need, what kit we might need.
And how many people would you need typically for a significant sized operation? Bring it alive for us.
It's hard to say. Recent operations I've done, we've maybe run a team of about 50 people.
50.
Which can seem like quite a lot, and lots of equipment as well. And it is quite honestly a simple case of relationships I've built up with all our partner agencies over the years, of me phoning them up and saying, what have you got available? Who's, you know, resource-wise, equipment-wise can come along, and then we plan from there.
And once you've organised that 50 people to be there on the same day at the same time, and all the other agencies that would be involved, what then happens? How are the horses caught? Who's doing? Where are they then moved to, for example?
Well, we generally have a plan in place in advance. So I'll write an operational order. Everybody will know what they're doing, how they're doing it. So often there's teams working individually, which will be a combination of different agencies, and they will work individually. And we will hopefully do it in, you know, the daylight hours to move them safely on then to a boarding establishment, whether that be a private establishment that the RSPCA is contracting, or our partner charities that will also house animals or horses for us that are subject to an investigation. So we all rely on each other effectively in these larger scale
jobs. And typically how many charities would be involved in a large rescue? Say 50, I mean 50 is not that large, but it's still a very big operation. How many charities would be involved in coming together to collaborate?
I can have up to 9 equine charities. So the last one I did was maybe 30 horses a few months ago, and I had 9 different equine charities all on board helping, whether it be through financing transport, physically helping on the day, providing equipment, providing boarding. So yeah, it's everybody comes together.
Because it's not only the people power that's critical and the equipment that's critical, it's also funding, isn't it, that's needed to be brought together to be able to pay for transport, for example. Nobody's got 6, 7 horse boxes stood there that are going 10, or, you know, however many, to be able to deliver that type of outcome.
Yeah, so generally in the bigger operations that are RSPCA-led, so warrant-led operations, the RSPCA does fund most of the transport, but then our partners will help out with lots of resources, so they are impacted, you know, and it affects obviously their day-to-day work planning. And of course, you know, people are coming from all across the country, so there's hotel bills and things like that, and bringing in the kit.
So just a quick snapshot there about how complicated some of these programs are. Yeah. And that's one part of the work that you do and many other colleagues across the UK are delivering. But Penny, let's just think about and talk about a minute from a people and human perspective, because it's probably not so well known to everybody, but some of the sites, the horrific sites, the animal cruelty, the terrible situations that that are at the front line, and all of our colleagues up and down the country who we are so thankful for, who are welfare officers delivering this type of work to rescue horses. How do we support our colleagues across different charitable organisations? What are some of the things that you've done?
Oh gosh, I think if I look back to when I started my RSPCA career, I remember going home for the first 2 years and telling my now husband the whole day before I very quickly realised it was exhausting. And actually the biggest part of that was that you suddenly realise you don't want to burden somebody else with the things that you've seen. So, you know, going back to those days, there was very much a culture of, you know, man up, you put it in a box and you move on because there are more to help, and that's effectively what we did. But we're so much better now at realising, you know, we cannot break our people on the front line, and it can be so easy to do that. So all the organisations that I'm aware of have really invested in, you know, the mental health side of it, and actually teaching us how to process what we're seeing. And it might still end up in the box, but we've processed it before we put it there. And certainly at World Horse Welfare, not only do we get training from now a trained professional, but that trained professional trains us to be reflective practice facilitators so that we can help each other, as well as debriefing when we've done those horrific jobs, because I think it's always easier to talk about them with someone who was there. You don't then feel like you're passing the burden on. Yeah. So we are much, much better at that than we've ever been.
That's good. That's good, because we need more people coming into the sector, don't we? Jana, have you got examples of how you've worked through yourself some of these really difficult situations, or how you've worked with others to help them get through some of these difficult situations, that when we're collaborating like that, it's a really important part of the work?
It really is. So we might get phone calls, all of us, from other inspectors, or even for ourselves as a small charity, from members of the public, and it's taking on board what they've said and protecting yourself a little bit. So we do have supervision, we've got counsellors we have access to, and that's even as a small charity, having those facilities available for the staff, because as you said, it is burnout that is really detrimental, and it's the people who have been in that trade for a long time that you want to keep there, because they have got that experience. We've had the inspectors ringing up, and it's kind of that conversation of, can you help? Do you have space? And it's collaboratively, what can we do? We might not have space, but you know what? Actually, we've got a staff member, we've got transport available. And then you know that you're able to make a difference still, and you're taking a little bit of stress off another inspector. So that's where together we can really, really make that difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crucial, isn't it? Can I just slightly change tack now, Christine? I want to come back to yourself as well, because we've done a very speedy look through how we collaborate, how we operationalise, how we think about our people and support our people doing this really harrowing, difficult job. But how do we then support horses? What do we do for our horses? Obviously, you're saving them from further harm, but then where's the further benefit that we can deliver to them?
Yeah, I think for me, sadly, that's not the side I see as a frontline officer, and I wish I did have the opportunity to see more of it. I see the bad stuff in front of me, and I get those horses to a safe place, or other animals that, may be present as well. We get those horses to a safe place. So unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity of being involved in the ongoing rehabilitation, and I may go and see them, in a couple of months down the line to look at improvement and take some, photographs from an evidential point of view as well of after photos. But unfortunately, I'm not heavily involved in the rehabilitation side of things. Probably Jana.
I'll remind you of the brilliant work you do and your RSPCA does in a minute. Jana, go on, tell us.
Yeah, so I think we do see start to finish, and again, it's probably one of those benefits from being a small charity that you do wear multiple hats. So I might be on welfare calls, but I'm also designing those rehabilitation plans and the rehoming elements. So we've got a couple of ponies that have come through from multi-agency operations. We've taken in 200 ponies, and I'd say about a third of those would have been through multi-agency ones. And some of them have gone on to be part of our wellbeing team. So they, again, are then changing lives with themselves, or they've just gone to find really nice companion homes. Yeah. So you know that although it doesn't stop as soon as you take them out of that rescue site, you've got to still have facilities, funding, availability and space. That's one of the big things at the moment, is charities having space. But if you can get them through that, then actually it's a really positive outcome for a lot of them.
It's brilliant.
I think it really is as well to the person side, because actually, as somebody who does largely the welfare side, but then I always say that as a field officer, I'm asked to do home checks. And I always describe it as because they want me to stay sane, because that's sometimes I get to home check where, if I'm lucky, it's a horse that I've actually rescued. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. So you actually get a chance to write it in your brain and go, okay, I can put that to bed now. Exactly. On to the next.
So, Christine, the collaboration that we have, the BHS and RSPCA, and now Bransby and others joining the team, is the Second Chance programme we have, where we've got now 120 horses that have been saved by the RSPCA and others, now in riding schools, having a fulfilling life, and many of them are in the Changing Lives Through Horses programme as well. So we're getting that circular benefit that we can get through the horses. So you need to come out and see more of those horses having a brilliant life. You're seeing too much of the wrong side of the action, in truth. So let's now, I know there's lots of questions coming in from the Slido. If Slido will open for me, Jan, you might be able to do Slido for me. It was there a minute ago. While we do that, any questions from the audience at all? Anybody got a question at all that they would like to ask? All quiet in the auditorium. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll come. We've got loads on Slido. One of the questions that's coming to us is the impact of welfare and the issues that we see and the work that you all do in support and rescue. But how do we actually change behaviour? How do we stop that happening?
Well, hopefully we can. I think education, you know, going forward is the key, and advice. I'm sure you've all seen this document laid around today. This the Horse Sense document is recently commissioned research by the RSPCA leading to this policy report, which is in fact only launched today, which is why you're going to see it around. You pick up a copy. But basically the research has shown that there is still a diversity of equine welfare problems across all sectors of, you know, equestrianism, not just particular areas. And it's through working together and all the collaborative working that we are doing, and with colleges and, you know, all, you know, people that are here today, you know, working as a big sector, how we can try and drive forward this attitude and behaviour change so that, you know, in England and Wales, all of our horses do all have the opportunity to, you know, live a good quality of life ultimately.
So I mean, all of us here are the audience of you know, preaching to the choir almost. We're all here learning and developing, and we've got to go out with the messages of education, isn't it? Fundamentally, how do we support people to learn? What's the right thing to do?
Legislative change and things like that as well. But, you know, as everyone here in the sector in some way can have an impact on, you know, the person at their yard, or the person, you know, we might be meeting in a welfare call, you know, to try and influence this change in behaviour so that we're working towards a more positive welfare for our horses in the UK.
Great answer. There's loads of questions streaming in. Vicky Kanga's asked us, are there any barriers to charity working together? We do a fantastic job, but what are some of the barriers for being able to work together?
I don't think there are barriers, but I'm personally really passionate that we continually look at what we do, look at how we do things, can we do things better, who can we learn from? Because if we look at how we do things now to 10 years ago, they're not the same, which is a good thing. We've got better equipment, different equipment, better training. You know, talking to a colleague last week, we agreed that we're actually really, really good at the planning stages, and we're really good at doing the job, but these jobs can be really, really fast moving. It's fast paced, you know, as everything with horses, you have a plan A all the way through to Z. And what can be really difficult from a multi-agency point of view is on that day, when you've done your planning, staying in the role that you've been allocated. And I feel like there might be more that we could do there to learn from other people, you know, maybe somebody like the fire brigade, because they would have similar, you know, situations. So to work on, you know, Kirsty's ethos of the multi-agency, it really probably should be time that we don't just train from within organisations individually. We should be training together, which is something we haven't really, I think, explored as much as we could.
Absolutely, and that's sharing the best practice. Is another great question there about how do we share best practice. But I just want to go on to one of the other questions that we have, is about how can more charities that may not be part of NUC, or how can more people get involved to support you in the work that you do? Jana.
So I think it would be, even if you're not part of NUC, it would be trying to meet those standards to eventually hope to be part of NUC and to stay in contact with NUC with any developments within that organisation. But also, if you can't be there for the actual rescue bit, how can you still help the charities? Could it be part of home checks? Could it be part of volunteering? Like, what is that scope for that whole rounded approach so that we can all work more effectively all together.
Here's another quick question. I'm keen to try and get as many. Is any more in the... yes, Joe.
Hi, Jo Coombs from Horse World. It's great hearing how everybody works really well together, and I think it genuinely does happen. And further to the conversation that was had earlier about the welfare of horses in equine-assisted learning, I think there's a huge amount of work that the welfare organisations have done, and Horse World is an organisation that has both a horse rescue and welfare side as well as an equine-assisted learning side. But I think the work that the welfare organisations have done, almost to Sharon's point, the horses that we're rescuing have had and experienced enormous trauma, and they have holes in their developmental pathway. And the work that the welfare agencies do in rehabbing is perhaps something that we don't shine a light on enough, because we rehab some of our ponies and horses can go on into companion homes, some will go on into our discovery programme, where they can actually work with children who also have the same, developmental pathway areas. And I just wondered if there's any advice that you have on, or thoughts on how the welfare organisations can help everybody else through their understanding of rehabbing traumatic horses who've experienced trauma like that.
Great question. Go on, Jana.
You answer
go
that.
first.
I think one key part is sharing their story. So quite often we're all guilty of showing the horse at the end or showing the horse at the beginning. But what has actually gone into that process of getting the horse rehabilitated to demonstrate, and we've had lots of talks today about, and really honest talks about being bullied or leaving school, and actually those horses are in those same situations. So to actually tell their story and for it not to be a limitation on them, we've had quite difficult cases, some difficult horses come through, but actually with the right rehabilitation, with the right Jenga blocks put back in place, they are well-rounded again, and it's matching them. And that's one of the hardest parts, is when we are rehoming them, it's finding the right homes and finding the right people to come forward. Again, we don't want rescues or rehoming to be put in a box, or you've got a damaged pony. Not at all. Actually, you've got professionals working with those ponies to get them back to a good Jenga piece.
Good shape, back into shape, in shape. We've got a few minutes left. Is there any other questions in the auditorium that anybody would like to ask? The lady just at the top there.
Hi, Olivia from Broadfield Law. I was wondering, for the average person who might be looking for a horse, like I was a year and a half ago, I was really keen to rehome a rescued horse, but I found it really difficult to find out how to do that. And most of them seem to be up for rehoming as a companion horse, which is understandable. But how would the average person like me find out how to do that and help you guys?
Good question. Great question.
The RSPCA does have on its website where you can go direct to the equines and see. I think maybe it's kind of depends at the time as to what's actually available. That might be, a suitable match for the person who's looking to rehome, because, unfortunately people are not going to be getting their perfect ridden child's pony at that stage, because a lot of the horses that are coming into care, like Jana said, have experienced trauma, and it can take time. So there's certain aspects of their life or things they've experienced that we need to share with people who are adopting them, to be prepared for, how they may react in different situations. So I think it depends on what's available at the time. So possibly at the time that you tried, there just may not have been something suitable that would have been the right match for you available. But usually, and I imagine World Horse Welfare as well, the same on the website.
Yeah, I do get asked quite a lot about why are so many of them companions, and the reality is that when we rehome a horse on our loan scheme, we want that horse or pony to stay with that rehomer, hopefully for life, for as long as possible. And some of these horses, you know, they might have experienced mental trauma, but they also might have had a physical difficulty, which even when resolved, we have to, you know, that horse goes through a whole assessment from top to toe with a number of different people. If we're not 100% confident that that horse has got the best chance of staying sound, and you're looking for a riding horse, if it doesn't stay sound, the first thing that will happen potentially is that it could come back to the farm, and that's not what we want for the horse, and it's not what we want for the rehomer. So we try to look at that from a very realistic point of view to make sure it fits into the right category of what's right for that horse, but also for the rehomer.
Brilliant, brilliant. Keep your eyes peeled. Not many about. I just want to get to the last question that was from somebody, sorry, that's just online. It's got the most likes for it, is, and in a 30 seconds, across each person, is indiscriminate breeding still a problem?
It's one of the problems.
One of the problems. Jana?
I agree. One of them, yeah.
One of them, yes.
Yes, it's still a problem. So I want to say thank you so much to all of our team here. We remember the great work of Kirsty today, but I also want to thank all of those other charitable organisations that are part of NUC, that are also in the wider community, and all of those dedicated staff and volunteers who are rescuing horses day in, day out. It is an incredibly tough job, and I think from all of us, we should be very grateful to you and all of our colleagues. Thank you very much. If you can, to look at the RSPCA Horse Sense report, very interesting report. Had a quick read through this morning. Again, education at the heart of that. And you can see the QR code that's on the screen. A very useful read and very helpful for all of us. So thank you, RSPCA, for producing that report. Michael.